Hello, I'm the Doctor, and welcome to Doctor Who, Gallifrey 101 and FandomCon 2013! Flat in that section over there. But it's okay. Hello, I am the Doctor, and this is Dr. Gallifrey 101. This panel is designed to kind of be a somewhat interactive panel where I give you a crash course in all things Doctor Who. Now to start off, what is Doctor Who? I hear you ask. Well, most of you know what it is, but that's okay, but I'll answer anyway. So Doctor Who is the longest running television, sci-fi television show / television show in the history of television. It has been running for about 50 years. It's just about to hit its 50th anniversary on November 20th. We'll see the 11th, who I am dressed as, and the 10th coming together for a rip-torn adventure of awesomeness. Man, can I get my water river, please? My throat is already dry from screaming so much. It's in your purse, isn't it? Great. No water. All right. Oh, good. Okay. Don't know who this is? I don't care. Who is it? That would be terrible. That would be an awful panel. Just 2 minutes in, drinks poison, dies. I would say regenerates and Peter Capaldi, no one knows nothing about me. For about 50 years now. There have been 11 Doctors so far, or give or take. The continuity is getting a bit confused on how many Doctors there actually have been and will be. So there have been 11. Let's call it that, okay? Keep it simple for the new guys. So there have been 11. I am dressed as the 11th. He regenerated from the 10th, obviously, he regenerated from the 9th, and so on. So the first Doctor ever debuted, obviously, in 1963, November 23rd, and he went by the name of William Hartnell. Now, I know what you're thinking. How do we get from a 55-year-old man to a 20, 30-something-year-old man named Matt Smith, and then Peter Capaldi? But we're going to cross that later. Well, they were William Hartnell's time had kind of run its course, and they wanted to continue on the show, so they came. So what happens is I am an alien, a Time Lord from the planet Gallifrey. Now the Doctor, because of that, I'm getting all confused. I'm sorry. My mind's running a million miles a minute. I got 11 minds up here saying different answers all at the same time. But Time Lords have the power to regenerate when they die. That's why I just made the joke earlier, so kind of going in for all the new guys. Anyway, so when they die, they regenerate, and they've all kind of met their end in some sort of adventurous way, or some sort of, it was their time to go and they gave their life to protect somebody or save the Earth. William Hartnell was a bit different. He was the only Doctor in history to die of old age. He died of old age, and as he was laying there, the TARDIS whoosh noise started to play, and the yellow kind of went over his face, and then he turned into Patrick Troughton, the second Doctor. Now, little side note, England had no idea what was going on. There were stories of people just staring dead at the TV going, what? What's going on? Who's this guy now? I was just getting used to that guy. Man, I'm gonna blog about this in 50 years when the internet's invented. I'm gonna blog angrily, but then came Patrick Troughton. He won over the hearts of people, and the show continued. Everyone loved him, but he also met his end. He met his end actually at the hands of the Time Lords themselves. You see, back when William Hartnell was the Doctor, Time Lords had a rule that you couldn't necessarily interfere with time. You could go back, you could observe, but that's it. You could not interfere. And 1 and 2 interfered just about every other episode, saving people. Paradoxes everywhere. It was pandemonium. Cats and dogs living together, mass hysteria. So the time he went on an adventure, tried to help, and realized he couldn't without the help of the Time Lords. The Time Lords helped and put him on trial for interfering with that planet's history and history in general. But he made a point that said that without him, the Daleks or the Cybermen, we'll get to them later, the Daleks or the Cybermen would have long since taken over or destroyed the universe or what have you. And so instead of killing him, they forced him into regeneration and exiled him to Earth, where he would protect the Earth because that's what he cared about, that's what he kept protecting mostly. And that's when he regenerated into John Pertwee. Now, John Pertwee was interesting because his take on the Doctor was not a kind of frail old man that had a pep in his step and would run around. He was like the James Bond of doctors. He could not rely too much on his TARDIS because he was exiled to Earth, and so he had like helicopters and cars and all sorts of things, and a Humo-mobile is what they called it, and he had like a cape and it was awesome, and he karate chopped people. It was great. But on one end, yes, what it was called, sorry? Yes, that one. If you want an answer, I didn't quite hear, so I'm going to say it again, so I won't have him say it again. But it was karate chopped people, and it was great. But unfortunately, he was exposed to an unstable web of metabolist crystals from Metabolus 3. See, these metabolus crystals, they boost your mind power, and they can make you somewhat telekinetic. And these spiders from Earth got their hands on, what makes spiders worse? Smart spiders, right? So these spiders from Earth got their hands on Metabolus crystals, and, got their 8 arms, there, fine. 8 arms on the Metabolus crystals. And I'm imagining like an 8-arm thing like the Metabolus crystals are ours! Dave, when did you learn to talk? I don't know. I've been holding these things. Anyway.
You dropped them.
So, but the Spider Queen wanted to weave a web of all these Metabolus crystals and make herself the smartest, most telekinetic being in the universe. But when the Doctor went to basically kill her with her own plan, because he gave her back the Metabolus crystal, but all those Metabolus crystals in her web kind of combined and like exploded her brain and made her go crazy, and she died. And then he was exposed to too much of the Metabolus radiation. So he died, unfortunately. He fell out of the TARDIS. He landed and he fell out of the TARDIS. It was very dramatic. It was like, oh, I'm dying, and he dies, and he regenerates into what most people would associate with the Doctor, at least before 10, we'll get to him. Tom Baker. Now, Tom Baker was the 4th Doctor, and possibly the most famous Doctor. He was definitely the most prolific Doctor, being the Doctor for almost, if not 10 years. He was 9, yeah, so it was about almost 10 years, 9. He was kind of split in the 10th year there, but it doesn't matter. Either way, he's who people most associate with the Doctor. You know, he had the scarf, and he had the coat and the hat. And way on 4th right here, we're trying to stand up, Mr. 4. Yes, he looked just like this. Just like this, he had the scarf that was, 20 miles. It was
baby pictures.
12 to 26.
Exactly. So anywhere from 12 to 26 miles long. And I don't know how he didn't trip over to get hung in something, he's running. Hang on, all right, here we go. All right, so he met his unfortunate end fighting off the Master when he climbed to the top of the tower to stop a broadcast, and he fell from the tower. And in his episodes right before he regenerated, there was this mysterious white being that would always kind of just be in the distance, kind of watching him, peering at him. No facial features. He was kind of like a ghost, and they called him Watcher. And it was very creepy. And who is he? What's the mystery? And when he fell off the tower, he didn't immediately die, which that's a feat of amazement right there in itself. I mean, I fall off a tower and I die all the time. So. But he, when he was laying there about to regenerate, the Watcher came to him and kind of he was like a ghost, so he kind of laid into him, and it turned out that the Watcher the whole time was the 5th Doctor. For some reason, he was watching. The jury's still not on why he was watching. It's kind of like watching yourself like, die, do it! I want to be you!
Worst thought.
I'm telling you, I have those feelings all the time about... Not kidding. Just the time I want to be. Sorry. But he regenerated into Peter Davison. Now, Peter Davison is interesting because Peter Davison was the first person to play the Doctor who had grown up watching the show. And it was the first time that he was like, oh, I love, and he was kind of the civilian. All of them had been playing kind of, I am proper, I'm a scientist, and da-da-da. And John Pertwee was like, I look good, and I'm going to go on adventures and wear a stick of celery on my lapel. So, I was saying, he wore like a cricket outfit and a stick of celery, and it was brilliant. And the problem was, is that right around this time, the BBC was like, hey, you know what's kind of popular? Doctor Who. Let's cut funding. So they began to cut funding, meaning they hired writers that were okay, and the producer at the time was like, you know what people love about Doctor Who? The fanciful nature and adventures they go on. Let's take all that out and put in scientific realism. And let's just not the sci-fi. What's that? So his season was kind of, it was good, but it was kind of blasé, and it wasn't the most popular, and they lost ratings because it wasn't as entertaining. I'm talking, yes I am. Anyway, so he unfortunately met his end when he was exposed to unrefined spectrox and succumbed to spectrox toxemia. What spectrox is a kind of, it looked like a drink when I saw it, but it's like a crystal or a drink. Maybe it's like a crystal you put in the drink and you mix it up and throw it.
Don't do drugs.
Anyway, when it's refined, it can make you live longer and be stronger. But when it's unrefined, it will kill you. So it's kind of a trade-off. You can get the unrefined stuff and kill yourself, but it's super cheap. Or you can get super expensive stuff and live longer. I mean, it's not even worth the price. Anyway, excuse me 1 second. Much better. I think that's flavored. Anyway, I don't know how good I'm good. It's like, oh good, it's Spectrox flavored. Hopefully they sprung for the refined Spectrox. I can't.
You don't buy your Christmas specials.
Exactly, I guess, yes. So they kind of lost funding and lost ratings, and he was succumbing to spectrox toxemia, and he was laying on the ground, and that was the first time he kind of voiced concern that maybe his regeneration wasn't taking place correctly. And he kind of got worried, and like all these people were spinning around his head like, Doctor, you have to live, Doctor. And the Master was like, ha ha, die, Doctor, die. And he was like, oh, I have to live because all these other spinning heads, and there's only one spinning head telling me to die. So I'm going to go with popular opinion here. So he regenerated into Colin Baker. Oh, Colin. Oh, Colin Baker, you just could not win. I feel like Colin Baker, 6th Doctor, great. He's great, but his season was not great. He wore like a clown's outfit. That's the best way I can describe it. It was like a Technicolor dream coat from the Nightmare Realms. And it was like pink and purple and yellow, and it was yellow in all the wrong places. And it was like somebody ate a bunch of Skittles and then threw up on a jacket and gave it to him. And plus, then they were like, well, last season didn't do good because of our changes. Let's change some more. So, Colin Baker got like half a season of adventures, subpar adventures, where he really didn't do a lot. And then he was put on trial by the Time Lords again. And so the rest of the season turned into a clip show. Because that's what I want to see when I watch Doctor Who, a clip show. So, he had this clip show season. he did not like the BBC. The BBC didn't like him because, you know, his rating was going down the tubes when it was kind of their fault for cutting funding in the first place. Nobody knew who to blame. And he was so fed with them that after his season was over, he didn't even return to regenerate. Like, that's how, he didn't even return to die. He did not even care. He was just like, you can whatever, throw a wig on the new guy. And that's just what they did. Funny story. So they couldn't get Colin Baker to come back to regenerate. So what they did was, on Sylvester McCoy, who was the next regeneration, they put a Colin Baker curly blonde wig on him and had him lay on the ground like this, so that you couldn't see his face. But the way that Colin Baker regenerated was he was under attack by the Ronnie, who was an evil Time Lord. There's two evil Time Lords. Well, one is new, so we'll come back later. The Ronnie, which is an evil lady Time Lord, so Time Lady, she hit the TARDIS and attacked it, and he, you know, fell and bumped his head and was like, "Oh no, I'm dying and generating. I have to." So he's laying on the ground like this, and she turns him over, and like this, and like effects are coming out of his face, and he's like regenerating, and all of a sudden the wig disappears, and it's Sylvester McCoy. And Sylvester McCoy was kind of what breathed a little bit, last breaths of life back into the series before it kind of lay dormant for a while. Sylvester McCoy was the running doctor, and he had the bowler hat, and he had a question mark umbrella, and he kind of didn't take crap from no one. He was gonna kill people, you know. Like, the other doctor's kind of like, "Oh, I can't kill," or "I have to kill." He was just like, "Hey, Dalek, that's an open window." So, which actually worked, which is weird because like high-tech lasers and guns can't kill Daleks, but like a fall from a two-story window like breaks them apart. So,
oh no, my only enemy! You don't
I think the time war could have been over if all that lived on the second floor. But Sylvester McCoy was the running doctor during the time when Doctor Who went on a hiatus. Doctor Who was never canceled, ever. Still running. It's technically the same. It is, not technically, but it is the same canon from William Hartnell to Matt Smith to Peter Capaldi. It's all one long thing. All they've done was take a long break in between the last episode of Sylvester McCoy and the made-for-television American movie. You see, BBC didn't want to fund Doctor Who anymore, but they weren't going to cancel it because they knew they made money in the cast, and BBC's not wanting to give up something the next month. Well, apparently they are if they don't want to get good writers, or you know what I mean. Anyway, that's the point. So, over here in America, Fox was like, "Hey, we can do that. We can make Doctor Who, and we can make it American, but with British actors, and shot in England, and based in somewhere, I don't know where. I try and block that movie as much as I can out of my memory. So, it starts out very well. Sylvester McCoy is still the Doctor. He's just gallivanting around the cosmos, and he lands in America. And he steps out of the TARDIS, first steps into America I think the Doctor's ever had, unless it was like pre-colonial America, and I just missed that episode. But he steps out of the TARDIS, and what is the first thing that happens to the Doctor when he steps to America? He gets shot! He gets gunned down. Like, it is not even ceremonious either. He just like, "Oh, what a..." It is not even like ceremonious. Yes, God bless the colonies and all that. Yes. So Sylvester McCoy, he's the Doctor. He is dying because he's dying and about to regenerate, and they bring him to the emergency room and do surgery on him, but they're not doing it right because Time Lord biology is different from human biology, and so he has two hearts, and he's, you know, nothing is reacting right, and he's awake for some reason, like, ooh, where did this doctor go to medical school where you keep people awake for surgery? But unfortunately he dies on the operating table, and so they put him in the morgue, and while he's in the morgue he regenerates into Paul McGann. Poor Paul McGann. Paul McGann was the 8th Doctor. He got the movie. That's it. That's all. That was his season. There you go. You want to watch all of Paul McGann's episodes? Watch that movie. You got it. So the whole movie was about him stopping the Master, and then they messed it up. They like, hey, we're America. We can mess with canon if we want to. Let's make the Doctor half human. That's the big twist. The Doctor is not half human. The Doctor has never been half human. The Doctor will never be half human. Stop wanting it. It will not happen. Stop trying to make it a thing. It'll never be a thing. Stop trying to make the Doctor half human happen. It's not happening. Stop trying to make that happen. That's not happening. So, nobody watched Mean Girls, really? I'm gonna say only like 4 people laughed and clapped. I don't know. I don't know. Get some of those here. Thank you, guys. Thank you. Anyway, okay. If you're not all gonna do it, then don't do it. I mean, okay. Anyway, so after Paul McGann, it went through another hiatus. 1998 was when they released that movie, and it did not come back until 2005, when Russell T Davies breathed life back into the series with Christopher Eccleston as number 9. We don't know what happened to... Oh, there he is! Hello, 9! And Stephen Johnson, good. Good source of tasks. So, we don't know what happened to Paul McGann. We don't know if he died shortly after the movie. We don't know if he regenerated during the adventure where he meets Rose, which is his current, which was his current companion in the 2005 series. So we don't quite know what happened to Paul McGann. But during 9 season, it kind of breathed new life in the show. It got old fans to love it again because it was still not the same sci-fi awesome epic that they remember from their childhood. And it got new fans because all their kids, or people who had never been exposed to Doctor Who before, like me. I mean, I wouldn't be hosting this panel right now had Russell T Davies not brought it back in 2005. I'm sorry, I came in on the new series. I'm not from the classic series, but so I apologize for that. But the new series is awesome, isn't it? It's great. So, Christopher Eccleston, I keep tripping on Christopher. I'm like, Christopher Eccleston. He had his season really breathed new life into it. And it was great. It was fun, it was adventurous, it was nice. But he wanted to do other things. And so he bowed out after his season. What happened was Rose absorbed the time vortex into herself, and she could not contain it all. And so he sucked the time vortex into himself and puts it back into the TARDIS. And his body could not handle all of the time vortex inside of him. With his own timeness in his head, he couldn't handle it both. And so he regenerated into probably one of the most popular Doctors, David Tennant. Now, a little aside about David Tennant. I have to talk about this because I love this story. David Tennant was not born David Tennant. David Tennant was born David McDonald. David McDonald loved only one thing: Doctor Who. If you know the story, let me tell it. I'm on camera. Come on. You can laugh and cheer and stuff, but like, don't where it's from. Then I can be with you at home. Anyway, so David McDonald actually would get in trouble at school by turning in papers and projects and school assignments, all Doctor Who related. Like, the boy was obsessed. He still is obsessed. After school, he decided to join an acting school, but oh no, there was another McDonald in his class. So instead of choosing a stage name, he changed his name to David Tennant so that he could be different. And in 2005, when they breathed life back into the series, he lost out to Christopher Eccleston. Unfortunately, it was sad. He was sad. He's like, well, I guess I'll never be the Doctor. And he walks over and he's sad. He never had a good day again until Russell T Davies saw, his past audition tape or remembered him from auditioning and said, who would be a great person to replace Christopher Eccleston? David Tennant. And so they called up David Tennant and said, hey, well, how would you like to be the Doctor? And he said, what? And they were like, how would you like to be the Doctor? He's like, yes. What? And so he was the Doctor from 2006 until just about 2010. So he ran about 4 years, and he had about 4 seasons. And really, David Tennant's the kind of guy who never ever have a bad day going to work. He was living his dream. Like literally, he would wake up in the morning, look himself in the eye, and say, "You're the Doctor." So it was great, and it was fun. But unfortunately, all good things must come to an end. He had been the Doctor a bit too long, and he was getting a little long in the tooth, and so. Sorry. Oh, sorry. I thought you said something. So I have people say things to me, and I'm like, "Oh, what? Huh? What?" I'm like a squirrel. I'm like, "Oh, seeds?" Anyway. So at the end of time, David Tennant had to regenerate. He'd been the Doctor a bit too long, and had to regenerate. The way he regenerated was he had finally beat the Master for the second time and sent Gallifrey back into the Time Law. We'll get to the Time Law in a second. Real quick aside. He had beat the Master and sealed him in the Time Lock with the rest of Gallifrey and Skaro in the Time War. And it had just been too much for him. His body couldn't take it. And then to put icing on the cake, Wilfred. I love Wilfred. I wish he could have been a companion, but Wilfred was trapped in this glass case that was about to pour tons of radiation on him, and it would have killed him. And before David Tennant regenerated, there was a prophecy that he who kills him would knock 4 times. And in the Master's head, while he's fighting the Master, was this constant beat, this... Okay, stop. So the Master had this beat in his head, and it was always confirmed that, oh, it must be the Master's going to kill him. Oh, but after he beats the Master, he's like, I did it, I survived, I did it, I'm alive. Wilfred in the glass goes, Doctor, hello, can you let me out of the glass case? He had knocked 4 times, and because of that, that was the prophecy that got the massive doses of radiation, and he unfortunately regenerated. And he didn't regenerate on a necessarily great note. It was a little sad. He was about to regenerate. He was like, I don't want to go. And he regenerated. And then, came Matt Smith, here I am. Current Doctor.
Apples
are rubbish. Stop bringing them up.
You said he was golfing in the last page.
But they're the better.
So, Matt Smith is the current Doctor. He's a lot more silly. He's a lot more fun and outgoing. And he's more paradoxy. That's a funny thing about the season. Like, they get more and more paradoxical as the seasons go on. It's like, when Christopher Eccleston is like, no paradoxes, can't change a word of time. Tennant was like, well, I guess I'm a lord of time, I can do it. And Matt Smith is like, you get a paradox, and you get a paradox. It was just a little bit jarring how many paradoxes there were. But that's enough about the Doctors. Let's talk about the Doctor's ride. Now, the Doctor's ship is known as the TARDIS. TARDIS is an acronym. Oh, yes, Miss TARDIS, would you please stand up? She is not specifically the TARDIS, but she is wearing a TARDIS costume. It is a... I want to believe you. Okay. But the TARDIS is an acronym for Time and Relative Dimensions in Space. And it is a Gallifreyan ship, and it's a time machine, and it has this thing on it. The reason it looks like a police box and not an alien spaceship is because it has a chameleon circuit on it. And what the chameleon circuit does is as soon as it lands, it absorbs all the information it can within a 100-mile radius, picks the most nonchalant object it can, decides to turn to that, and then sharks that and turns into a police box from 1963. So, question?
What if the most nonchalant name was Max?
then it would turn into a mouse, and he would crawl out of a mouse mouth, I guess.
Find the door.
You don't want
The door being.
So the TARDIS, as most of you know, looks like a police box on the outside, but it's way bigger on the inside. It's like bigger than this convention center. Smaller on the outside. Smaller on the outside, bigger on the inside. And it's because it's actually a pocket dimension that's trapped inside of the the pocket dimension is the ship trapped in, not trapped, but put inside of the box. But it's also the medium circuit adding to that. So it can go anywhere, anytime in time and space, but more than likely end up in London during the critics. No, but really, they go all around. He's had the TARDIS since the reason that Hartnell had the TARDIS because he was running from Gallifrey and going on adventures with his granddaughter. Which brings me to the companions. There have been hundreds of companions. I can't remember all of them, I'm sorry. So we're going to keep it just to the new series because that's how I know you know. That's who I know you know, or will know, or can know. Because you can't necessarily see all the old episodes all together. So the new companion started with Rose, and she was this blonde girl, just this ordinary girl that happened to chat. There we go. Thank you. That's the word. That's kind of an insult, though. Well, thank you very much. So she's this blonde that was just this ordinary girl, and this ordinary girl is the person that destroyed the Daleks again. But they would come back to be destroyed again. But I bet they're going to come back to be destroyed again. Thank you. Sorry? That's true. I have been deleted from the spoilers. Listen, we're going to try and stray as far away from actual show like canon stuff as I can, unless it's actually pertaining to explaining something. So. Yes. So after Rose left, she got not disposed. That's the wrong word. That's the wrong word. She got transplanted. After Rose got transplanted, then came Martha Jones. Now, thank you. People actually like Martha Jones. This is me as a person, not the doctor, saying this, but I love Martha Jones. She's my favorite. Martha Jones got the short end of every stick ever. It was, oh God, it was bad. It was bad. No one likes her because, okay, well, that's the thing. No one but a few of you in the room like her because you all think that she was trying to replace Rose. And the doctor was trying to replace Rose with her because he missed her. And it was sad. And it was, but anyway. That's how I'm getting all the fun because I love Martha. Anyway, so after Martha Jones left, then came Donna Noble. Popular reaction. I guess I'm going to guess that Martha's your favorite. Yes. So then came Donna Noble, and Donna Noble was just a 10 from Chiswick. She just was, more ordinary than Rose, never did anything in her life, never had a career, no family, not a lot of friends. Really only her grandfather and her mom were her friends, except for the people she drank with. And she was a professional temp, essentially. And this unordinary woman in the universe ended up being one of the most important women in the universe and saving the universe. And really leveling the Doctor, because the Doctor, he was real level with Rose. And then Martha came and he's like, I'm sad and emo, and I'm gonna replace Rose with you, and it's gonna be cool. And I'm just gonna use you as my kicking stool. And you guys don't have a kicking stool. What's wrong with you? And then she left, and he kind of needed somebody. The Doctor needs a companion. He needs someone to talk to, bounce ideas off of, not go insane. Exactly, to keep him sane. He needed a friend. And so that's what Donna Noble was just a mate. He did not want to mate with her. He just wanted a mate. As in a friend in British vernacular. So after the Donna time and after they were generating Matt Smith, then came Amelia Pond. She's tough. Scottish, and she doesn't take nothing from nobody. So she was the girl who waited. And because the doctor came to her right after regenerating as a little girl and said, hey, do you want to come on adventures with me? I need somebody to fawn over me and be like, oh, doctor, you're so pretty. Because I'm vain that way. And so then came Amelia Fawn, and she was the girl who waited because the TARDIS malfunctioned while he was regenerating, and it actually sent him 20 years into her future. And, sorry, 12? Sorry, not 20, 12. Wait! Either way, doesn't matter. 12 years into her future where she was 20, yes. She was not 1 when we met her. Would you like to come on adventures? I'll take it as a yes. Come on! I'm gonna say I can speak baby, so I'd be like, yes, of course you can.
Storm again!
And there's plenty of milk over here. Anyway. When with Amelia came Rory the Roman. And Rory was the guy who waited 2,000 years for Amelia Fawn. They were together, obviously. That would be really creepy if they were. I've waited for you 2,000 years. Thanks, Rory. You're a good friend. No, but I don't ring out of time. Am I where we are? No, okay, he's coming in. Come on, find a seat. It's all good. First hour, so anyway. So Roy the Roman waited 2,000 years for Amy, and he trained with a Roman centurion and all that, but unfortunately, once again, all good things come to an end, and the pawns left. I'm gonna go spoilers on that one. Yes?
Wait, was it Rory like an odd? I think that's what it's called? I forgot.
Briefly, it was a big conspiracy with Auton. Yes. Briefly he was, but it was rectified after events happened. I can't say specifically because there are people who haven't seen it. Spoilers. So anyway, after they left, unfortunately, right. Anyway, then came Clara. The impossible. Girl. Thanks. Clara, please stand up. That's Clara. Impossible girl. She was impossible. She dies a time. She meets the doctor, but then meets the doctor again and dies. What's going on here? Impossible girl. Find out. Watch the show. Right. Anyway, I'm going to say spoilers on anything else because if you don't know that she's the impossible girl who dies at least once, then you on Tumblr, I guess.
Who fled?
We don't ship that. I'll tell you what we ship though. We ship the Doctor and River. Please stand up and show them your lovely dress. That's my River. Hell in high heels. Sorry for any kids in the room. Eating up walking sticks and heels. And just beautiful. And she is the Doctor's match to a T. Not necessarily, the reason I say her last, even though she came before Clara did, is because she's not necessarily a companion per se. She's not traveled all the time with the Doctor. But there are certain adventures where she does come and lend a helping hand to the Doctor. But I can't really give anything away as to who she is or why she comes along. That would be maybe spoilers. You gotta watch the show. It's great. It all pays off in the end. It can be frustrating at first. You're like, who are you? I don't care anymore. But I do care. Oh God. Just keep watching. It's totally worth it. Don't let the silence creep you out. What? Anyway. Anyway, now we're going to talk about the tech of Doctor Who. This is my sonic screwdriver! Terrible action impression, I'm sorry. That's supposed to be boomstick, but you know it. The sonic screwdriver has 900 to 1,000 functions. It's got whir, it's got biz, it's got Where again? It does a lot of things. It can scan things like this here. That does not even look prosthetic. Oh my. Give me the name of that doctor. I want to go to him. Let's say if I ever miss a limb, good lord, that thing was completely robotic. But it can scan anything. It can scan things and tell it can. Sorry, what? Except for wood. I didn't want to bring that up. I wanted to look cool in front of everybody. Thank you. It can scan most anything except for wood. Nothing. It's nothing here.
That's not real wood. The door is wood.
Well then, maybe that's just a Dalek table thing. I'm on you. Watch out.
Can you push it out and open window?
Sorry?
Push it out and open window?
That's a good idea. If it starts to attack, push it out or open window. You're on the second floor, so we will win that fight. So, speaking of Daleks. Getting into the enemies of the Doctor. And the two most prevalent enemies that have just haunted and cursed the Doctor for just eons are Daleks and the Cybermen. Now the Daleks are these kind of trash cans. They're trash cans. Trash cans with lasers and a plunger. Say a whisk and a plunger and then like exterminate.
Dolls are scary shaking cats.
If you go down to the R2D2, you will have a great impression for you. Well, I mean, he's cosplaying, that's why. Anyway, the Daleks are the oldest and most brutal of all of Doctor and Doctor's enemies. Because, sorry? Oh yes, they go all the way back to William Hartnell, all the way back to 1963. To the first episode? No, I didn't. I guess I forgot. Hartnell, come on, remember, come on. Anyway, they're all up here. They're all kind of yelling all different uses. Oh yes. Where's Hartnell? Is he here? Yes. Hartnell, there you are. Start double backing and stuff. Let me check my time real quick on my doctor. Okay, good. I got about 15 minutes. I did better than I thought I was. Wow. How fast was I talking? I was drunk and mad. Wow, that's fast. All right, but Daleks are his most brutal enemies, and they're actually what caused him to kind of destroy and walk away the Time Lord. It was very painful for the Doctor, but he was the one that killed off his entire species because he had to. Because they were locked in a bitter. What? Oh, okay. I thought you were going spoilers. And I'm like, it's very prevalent throughout all the series that we did. So he had to kill off his entire species and kill off the Daleks, or so he thought, and lock them away in a time lock, so that no one could go back to the Time War and mess with the events or anything. Because back before the end of the war, there was bad things. There was the Scaro degradation, was the Circus of Travesties, the Nightmare Child. All of that came through. All of that came through during the war, and he did not recognize his own species anymore. They had become a warlike race that was only concentrating on winning, no matter how many people died. They weren't concentrating on what they were supposed to be, which are these legal, essentially time protectors, kind of, to a point. Yes. Not time cops, because they have the time agents. They have time agents, but they're like what? Time judges, kind of. Anyway. So they kind of just neglected that for all-out war and all-out destruction of everything and everybody as long as they win. So he locked them away, and it was very painful for him. It was a very sad day for the Doctor, indeed. Let's see, what else can I talk about? Cybermen! Why did I stop on Daleks? That's not even all his. That's not even his most popular villains. Well, they are. Anyway, there's the Cybermen. The Cybermen are actually of what human origin. They are people who wanted to be better and upgrade themselves to the maximum that they could with robotic bodies and be like the ultimate men. But unfortunately, the one weakness they see in humans is our emotions. And so they don't have emotions, they have emotional inhibitors, and they see the human race as worthless and needing an upgrade, and they keep wanting to upgrade, and they keep saying, no, don't upgrade them, and they're like, okay. But then they come back and try to upgrade again. So it's a vicious cycle. And they walk like this, and they're like, delete, and they delete everything that they see as unnecessary. Yes? Question. Okay. Delete. And so they seek to upgrade everyone to their, and they keep upgrading more and more, so they're getting harder and harder to defeat. One infected my mind once, and I had to play chess with him. It was scary. It was good. Anyway, it was a good game of chess. Yes. Oh yes, everybody lived. I love that story. Where everybody lived. So, World War II, ninth incarnation. A lot of stuff's going down. London during Blitz. We discussed it. So the Blitz is happening, but there is this child walking around. Are you my mummy? It asks, with a gas mask on, so you can't quite see his face. Are you my mummy? It's going to keep repeating. Stop it! Creep me out. So this empty child was probably one of the first of the new series, one of his more impossible enemies that I can't reveal too much because it's going to be a major spoiler, and I love that. I love those episodes. What happens is once it touches you, you organically grow the gas mask on yourself, and you ask for your mummy. Are you my mummy? Are you my mummy? That's all you repeat, all you'll think about. You know. But I can't reveal much more than that because that would be kind of spoilerish, and you have to go watch it. It's called The Empty Child or The Doctor's Dancing. Those are two great episodes. But I love those stories because that's the first time that 9 was ever happy about an ending. Because before then, it had all been kind of, oh great, we kind of did okay, but we really could have done better. And this one, he's just like, yes, I'm dancing around, I'm happy, and everybody, yes, Rose. All right. That was exciting. I mean, the 9 is exciting. You can get excited about anything. He was kind of drab. I mean, he had just kind of regenerated. We don't know where Paul McGann 8 regenerated 9, or if there was maybe a pseudo regeneration in the middle. We don't know. We'll find that out coming soon. So, let's see. Daleks, Cybermen,
Weeping Angels.
Weeping Angels. I'll only talk about them briefly, I swear. Now, the Weeping Angels, don't do that, you creep me out. Don't do that, things, it's all, man. The illusion was real, it was there. But the Weeping Angels are a set of statues that are actually they're actually an alien species. That they're in their biology, whenever you're looking at them, they're in a time lock. They're locked in place. They're locked like this. And they don't necessarily exist. But the second you take your eyes off them, the second you look away, the second you blink, they're fast, impossibly fast, and they'll kill you. So there's not necessarily any way to beat the Weeping Angels except maybe push them out a second-story window. But whatever you do, don't blink. Blinking, you're dead. So don't blink. Whatever you do, you see one, don't blink. Stare at it. Whatever you have to do, do a little eye thing where you're switching eyes, but always keep an eye on it. But one more villain I'm talking about would be the Silence. And they're kind of the new... The what?
What?
Oh boy. So, the Silence are these tall, gangly, white-headed, bone-white Slenderman. It's Slenderman. So and when you look at them, as long as you're looking at them, you can remember them. You remember everything you ever knew about them. The second you turn away, gone. You don't even know what you looked at. Don't even know anything was there. Don't even know anything's wrong. I was about to cover that. But they have a little bit of an edge. Oh, great. And OP already gets an edge. Great. OP, for you who don't know, is overpowered. An overpowered villain gets an edge. Great. Basically, what they get is post-hypnotic suggestion. You look at them, you're scared, and they say, hey, build me a house. And you go, I'm scared, I'm not going to build you a house. And you turn around and run away, and you go, I should build a house. And you build in the house, and you go, I don't know why I'm building this house, but it feels right. But it just feels right. And so the problem with the silence is it was not an alien invasion. They had already been here. They had been here before. They had been here for a long time. You don't know how long they've been here. They've been here. They've been talking to you. But you can't remember it. But there is good news. You gotta watch the episode and get that good news. A million people are on the Netflix. I'm so scared I have to see this! Tell me it's okay, please! But let's see, I covered the Doctor. Oh, wait, I can talk about Gallifrey. Probably the last thing we're talking about is Gallifrey. Gallifrey is my home world. Now, Gallifrey is in the gridlock system in the constellation Castorburus, 10-0-11-00 by 02 from Galactic Zero Center. That's where it's located. It is a kind of dry, arid planet in parts, with Sylvester McCoy's with number 7 describing it as the Serengeti all year round. But there are also fields of red grass and trees with silver leaves on them, and when the morning sun hits them, it looks like a forest on fire, and it's one of the most beautiful planets. It's very arid, but there is a river running through it. I can't remember if that is the only river running through Gallifrey, but it does run close to the main city of the Time Lords that live on Gallifrey. And it's known as the Shining Star of the Seven Systems because it's the brightest one. It glows red because of the sun reflecting off of the red grass. Sorry. Two rivers? Oh, 2 suns, that's right. And there are 2 suns. So I was like, 2 suns. Do you know something I don't? This is an awkward time to tell me on camera at my panel. But I think that's all you really need to know about Doctor Who. If you're interested in watching Doctor Who, check it out on Netflix. If you have any more questions for me, I'm going to open up a Q&A for the last 2 minutes I have. But you can always stop me and ask me questions if you see me, and I'll probably be, hello, take pictures. Oh, that's great. I love talking about Doctor Who. I love Doctor Who, and I want you to love it, and I want you to watch it if you haven't. If you haven't watched it, check it out on Netflix. They also have old series stuff on there as well as the new series. All of the new series up to Series 6 of the new stuff. Series 7 should be up soon. And let's open up to Q&A for the last 2 minutes we have. I don't know how popular the next panel is. You right there.
Did you hear about the 150th episode of Doctor Who?
Yes, I did. I am super excited about those coming out. Yes, right there.
How exactly did you get into Doctor Who?
It was an accident, actually. Me personally, the Jared, the cosplayer, yes. I was saying, I'm the Doctor. How did I get into Doctor Who? I'm the Doctor. No, it was actually an accident. I had the flu one day, and on the Sci-Fi Channel they were running a marathon of 9's season, leading up to the Christmas Day invasion, which was 10's first episode. And what was funny is I had my first fanboy moment in that day, because like, oh, I love this guy. I'm like, and prepare for the new Doctor. I'm like, new Doctor, I just met this guy. What's going on here? Did this happen often? I'm not gonna like this. But actually, I had the flu and I watched the marathon, and I absolutely fell in love with the show. My first episode actually were the Empty Child and the Doctor dances, and those won me over like nobody's business. But in the Christmas Day invasion, oh man, I was like, I'm not gonna like this guy at all. And they're like, who are you? And he's like, I don't know. I like this guy. Yes, I'll continue to say yes.
For those who are with my resident series, yeah, what would be a good place to start?
Good plan. Just start at 9. Promise I can do it. Start at 9 because the way Davies wrote it was to usher in new people but still please the old people. That sounded wrong. Please the old people. Usher in the new people, but please the older fans. Keep the older fans from the older series. So start at 9. You'll more than likely love him, and if you don't, then go to 10th season. He should win the over. If he doesn't do it, I don't know what. Go to Smith. He might win you, and if not, then sorry, it might not be the So yes.
Oh, this is a bit of a stupid question, but conversation with this girl. How do you feel about Dr. Zest?
Doctor says. Next question. I answer that question by discuss, but there are children. I would go more in depth, but there are children here. Think of the children.
21st century.
Yes.
Do you want there to be a ginger doctor?
A ginger, okay.
Like Rupert Grint or as a doctor?
Yes, I do. But here's what I want to happen.
Beautiful man.
Here's what I want to happen. Here's what I think is going to happen. Factoring 6 and 7's time, there was rumor that one of the last incarnations, regenerations of the Doctor was going to be evil, known as the Valyard. And I think it would just be the biggest poke in the eye if they made the one ginger Doctor. This is the biggest salt in the wound, like, I'm ginger! I better go kill someone.
You know what I want. Remember last year?
No. Oh! I was like, you know what I want. Not liking this, you at the table, not liking this bar. No, okay. If anybody's got a camera, now would be a good time to take some pictures because I'm going to.